There is something about Las Vegas in the 1970s that people who lived through it cannot forget. The neon lights, the larger-than-life entertainers, the sense that this desert city was unlike anywhere else in America. If someone was there, they know exactly what made that decade so electric. This was a time when Las Vegas was transforming from a mob-run gambling town into something approaching a legitimate city. Elvis was performing twice a night at the International Hotel. Howard Hughes was buying up casinos from his penthouse suite. The Strip was expanding with massive new properties, and the desert was filling with subdivisions as regular families built lives in this most unusual of American cities. This was the decade that gave us Caesar's Palace at its peak, Siegfried and Roy beginning their legendary run, and the last gasps of the Rat Pack era. The mob was losing its grip slowly, while corporations were taking over. But Las Vegas still had that dangerous edge, that sense that this was a place where normal rules did not apply. Living in Las Vegas meant existing in two worlds simultaneously. There was the glittering strip where tourists gambled and celebrities performed, and there was the regular city where people raised families, went to work, and endured summers that reached 115 degrees Fahrenheit. Let's walk through what daily life actually felt like during that unforgettable decade. Some of this might bring back memories. Some of it might explain why Las Vegas became the fastest growing city in America. Let's step into that world. Living in Las Vegas in the 1970s meant adapting to the desert. The heat was unlike anything most Americans experienced. Summer temperatures regularly exceeded 110 degrees. The asphalt in parking lots would become soft. Car steering wheels were too hot to touch. Getting into a car that had been sitting in the sun meant opening all the doors first and waiting for the interior to cool from approximately the temperature of an oven. Air conditioning was not a luxury in Las Vegas. It was survival. Evaporative coolers called swamp coolers were common in older homes. These worked by blowing air through water-soaked pads, which was effective in the dry desert climate. The sound of a swamp cooler was the soundtrack of a Las Vegas summer, a constant whirring hum. Newer homes had refrigerated air conditioning, which made the brutal summers bearable. Electric bills in summer were enormous. Running the air conditioning 24 hours a day for months was expensive, but there was no alternative. Homes in Las Vegas in the 1970s reflected both the desert environment and the era's aesthetic. Many houses were single-story ranch-style homes, built low and sprawling. Block construction was common, designed to insulate against the heat. The architecture was often mid-century modern, with flat or low-pitched roofs, large windows, and clean lines. Inside, the color schemes matched the rest of America. Harvest gold, avocado green, and burnt orange dominated. Shag carpeting was everywhere. That seemed like an odd choice for a desert city where dust was constant. Wood paneling covered walls in family rooms and dens. Many homes had swimming pools. In Las Vegas, a pool was not showing off. It was one of the few ways to survive summer. Families would spend entire evenings in the pool after the sun went down, when the temperature finally dropped below 100 degrees. Yards were different from the rest of America. No one had lawns like in the suburbs of the East or Midwest. Grass required too much water and the water bills would be astronomical. Desert landscaping with rocks, cacti, and drought-resistant plants was standard. Some people attempted lawns in their front yards, watering constantly and fighting the desert, but most accepted that Las Vegas was not a place for green grass. The city was growing explosively in the 1970s. New subdivisions were spreading east and south from the Strip into empty desert. Housing was affordable. A middle-class family could buy a 3-bedroom house with a pool for prices that seemed impossibly low compared to California. People were moving to Las Vegas from all over the country, drawn by jobs in the casinos, by the climate for those tired of harsh winters, and by the sense that Las Vegas was a city of opportunity. The population more than doubled during the 1970s. This growth would continue for decades. The Strip was the heart of Las Vegas, the reason the city existed. In the 1970s, the Strip was a concentration of spectacle unlike anywhere else. Massive casino hotels competed for attention with ever more elaborate themes and attractions. Caesar's Palace, which had opened in 1966, reached its peak of grandeur in the 1970s. The Roman theme was taken seriously, with statues, columns, and fountains creating a fantasy of ancient Rome. The casino was enormous, filled with table games and slot machines. High rollers were treated like royalty with complimentary suites, meals, and shows. The MGM Grand opened in 1973 and was the largest hotel in the world at the time, with over 2,000 rooms. The opening was a massive event. The hotel had a movie theme, celebrating MGM's Hollywood legacy. The Grand Ballroom could hold thousands for shows and conventions. The Hilton, formerly the International Hotel, was where Elvis performed. Elvis's residency from 1969 through the 1970s was legendary. He performed more than 600 shows there, often doing 2 shows a night. Getting tickets meant everything to fans. The shows were spectacles with elaborate costumes, full orchestras, and Elvis at his most iconic, even as personal struggles were becoming apparent. The Stardust, the Sands, the Desert Inn, the Tropicana, all these casinos had their own character and their own stars. Frank Sinatra still performed occasionally, though the Rat Pack era was fading. Dean Martin had a residency at the MGM Grand. Siegfried and Roy began performing in Las Vegas in the early 1970s. Their magic show with white tigers was unlike anything audiences had seen. By the late 1970s, they were headliners, and their show became one of the longest-running and most successful in Las Vegas history. For residents of Las Vegas, the Strip was both a workplace and occasional entertainment, but it was also somewhat separate from daily life. Many locals rarely went to the Strip unless they worked there. The casinos were for tourists. Locals knew which off-strip casinos offered better odds and cheaper drinks. Before we continue with the entertainment culture and the darker side of Las Vegas in this era, if you are enjoying this look back at how people really lived and want to explore more decades and places, consider subscribing. There are so many more stories about how Americans built the life we know today. Working in the casinos was the primary industry in Las Vegas. Tens of thousands of people worked as dealers, cocktail waitresses, pit bosses, security, hotel staff, and entertainers. The casinos operated 24 hours a day, which meant shift work was standard. People worked days, swing shifts, or graveyard shifts. Dealers at blackjack and craps tables could make good money from tips. A skilled dealer at a busy table on the Strip could earn more than many professionals. Cocktail waitresses who served drinks on the casino floor relied on those gratuities. The uniform was revealing by the standards of the time, sequined outfits with short skirts. The job required stamina, walking miles each shift in high heels while carrying trays of drinks. The unions were powerful in Las Vegas. The Culinary Workers Union represented thousands of casino employees. Union membership meant decent wages, health insurance, and pensions. For working-class people, Las Vegas casino jobs offered a path to middle-class stability. Behind the glamour, the mob's influence was still present in the 1970s, though declining. Many casinos remained connected to organized crime, with skimming operations taking cash before it could be counted for taxes. The Chicago outfit, the Kansas City mob, and other organizations had interests in various properties. The Stardust was particularly notorious. Alan Glick, a frontman, owned the casino, but mob interests controlled it. Millions of dollars were skimmed over the years. The FBI was investigating, and the cases would eventually lead to convictions. But in the 1970s, the operations continued. For residents, the mob presence was something people knew about but did not discuss. Las Vegas had an understanding. You did not ask questions. You did not get involved in things that were not your business. For most people, life in Las Vegas was perfectly safe. The violence was reserved for those in the life. Howard Hughes moved to Las Vegas in 1966 and spent years as a recluse in the penthouse of the Desert Inn. From there, he bought casinos, the Silver Slipper, the Frontier, the Sands, and the Landmark. Hughes's ownership brought a veneer of legitimacy. He was an eccentric billionaire, but he was not the mob. Hughes left Las Vegas in 1970, but his influence remained. His purchases showed that corporations could own casinos. This opened the door for legitimate businesses to enter the gaming industry. The transition from mob control to corporate ownership was gradual throughout the 1970s, but it was happening. Entertainment in Las Vegas was not just the big strip shows. Lounges in every casino featured live music. Singers, comedians, and musicians performed in intimate settings, often for free or for the price of drinks. The lounge scene was where up-and-coming acts played and where stars would sometimes drop in for impromptu performances. The 1970s lounge aesthetic was velvet, brass, and low lighting. Singers in sequin dresses and tuxedos performed standards. The audience sat in booths, drinking and smoking. This was adult entertainment in an era before that phrase meant something else entirely. For teenagers growing up in Las Vegas, the city felt surreal. The Strip was often where their parents worked, or where families went occasionally to a buffet. The rest of Las Vegas was a regular suburban city with high schools, shopping centers, and neighborhoods. Las Vegas high schools in the 1970s had all the typical teenage concerns, but with the unique backdrop of living in a casino town. Some students took part-time jobs when they turned 18, dealing cards or working in the back of the house. The heat shaped childhood. Summer meant swimming pools and air-conditioned malls. Kids could not play outside during the day in July and August. The temperature was simply too dangerous. Evening was when children came out, playing in yards and streets after the sun set. The desert surrounded the city. Exploring the desert was a common activity for adventurous kids and families. Red Rock Canyon to the west offered hiking and climbing. Lake Mead provided water recreation, a striking contrast to the dry landscape. Boating, water skiing, and swimming in the massive reservoir created by Hoover Dam were popular escapes from the heat. Food culture in Las Vegas was unique. The casino buffets were famous, and they offered incredible value. For a few dollars, people could eat enormous amounts of food. Prime rib, crab legs, and elaborate desserts were all available. The buffets were designed to keep people in the casinos, and locals took advantage of them for special occasions and holidays. Las Vegas had excellent restaurants beyond the buffets. Casinos attracted celebrity chefs and high-end dining. But the city also had a working-class food culture. Mexican food was excellent and everywhere, influenced by a large Mexican-American community. Asian cuisine, particularly Chinese, was also popular. The city being open around the clock meant food was always available. Coffee shops and casinos served meals at all hours. A steak and eggs breakfast at 3 a.m. was perfectly normal. Shopping for locals meant the Boulevard Mall, which opened in 1968 and became the center of retail for residents. In the brutal summer heat, the enclosed mall was essential. Teenagers hung out at the mall, which was air-conditioned and offered escape from both the heat and boredom. The casinos themselves had shopping arcades and often high-end boutiques, but these were primarily for tourists. Locals shopped at regular stores such as Sears, JCPenney, and smaller independent retailers. What made Las Vegas different from everywhere else was the fundamental strangeness of the city. This was a place built on gambling, where the biggest industry was separating tourists from their money. The moral ambiguity was baked into daily life. Churches existed and people attended, but Las Vegas was not a particularly religious city. The looseness of the culture, the drinking and gambling, the showgirls and the nightlife all created an atmosphere that was more tolerant and more libertine than most of America. Divorce was easy in Nevada, requiring only a 6-week residency. For decades, people had come to Las Vegas to end marriages quickly. The wedding chapel industry was booming, offering instant marriages. These contradictions, quickie divorces, and quickie marriages were perfectly Las Vegas. The city's 24-hour culture meant that time operated differently. People worked all shifts. Grocery stores and services were open all night. Someone getting off a graveyard shift might go to breakfast at 9 a.m. before going home to sleep during the day. This created a community that never slept, which felt both exciting and disorienting. The 1970s in Las Vegas were not perfect. The mob's presence brought violence. The intense focus on gambling created problems with addiction. The city's growth was happening faster than infrastructure could support. Schools and roads struggled to keep up with population increases. Water was always a concern. Las Vegas existed because of the Colorado River and Lake Mead, but even in the 1970s, there were questions about long-term sustainability. The desert was unforgiving, and building a major city there was audacious. The transient nature of the population meant communities were less stable than in other cities. People moved to Las Vegas for opportunities, and they left when those opportunities dried up. Building lasting friendships and relationships required effort in a city where many people were just passing through. What defined Las Vegas in the 1970s was transformation. The city was moving from its wild frontier past into something more corporate and more legitimate. The mob was losing control. Howard Hughes had pointed the way toward corporate ownership. Major hotel chains and entertainment companies were beginning to see Las Vegas as a business opportunity. For residents, it was a unique place to build a life. Jobs were plentiful, the weather was extreme but predictable, and the city had an energy that was addictive. Living in Las Vegas meant embracing contradictions. It was a family town built on adult vices. It was a place of enormous wealth and working-class struggles. It was fake Roman palaces in the desert and real people making real lives. The entertainment was world-class. The opportunity was genuine. The heat was brutal. The strangeness was constant. For those who lived in Las Vegas during the 1970s, it was unforgettable. The city was finding its identity, caught between its outlaw past and its corporate future, and being there meant being part of something that existed nowhere else in America. For those with memories of this remarkable era in the desert, there is always more history to explore.